Welcome to Thoroughbred 360, insights, stories and strategy from the commercial world of thoroughbred racing with your host, Bruce Slade. Hello and welcome everybody to episode 23 of the pod, of course, coming to you from William Inglis at Warwick Farm this week, where the weaning sales are on starting tomorrow and the chairman sale, the big elite mare sale, on Thursday afternoon, which we're very much looking forward to and putting the groundwork in to make sure that sale is a success for all the people involved with Kestrel Thoroughbreds. The biggest news is lots of big breaking news, in fact, through the week in Australasia. Of course, the final service fee announcements, a few more to come, but a lot of the big farms now have set their fees, and that's been a huge talking point in the game over the last week amongst breeders. We'll do some more work on that in coming podcasts and social media pieces for you there. But that was big. But the biggest news of all, the big changing of the guard, the sale of Segenhoe Stud to Yulong, a huge transaction in terms of monetary value and in terms of, one of the big brands, one of the key farms, one of the leading producers of thoroughbred racehorses in Australia and globally has now changed hands. And I think overall, from the industry's point of view, in talking to people, the feel is one of real positivity. Segenhoe is such a strong brand, an iconic brand in Australasia. It's now been passed on to, great custodians in Mr. Zhang and the Yulong team, a team that have full of quality, obviously have huge quality, huge scale in terms of their thoroughbreds, their mare purchases, and now, of course, they're expanding stallion operations. So fantastic from a Segenhoe point of view and from the industry's point of view, but also fantastic and a natural step for Yulong. They really are growing at such a fast pace. I'm sure it's just taking so much work and so much effort to plan and position and then execute. But they're doing a magnificent job, it must be said. Now 13 stallions across 2 states, 3 new group vomiting colts retiring to stud this season. So only natural for them to be in the Hunter Valley. Of course, the New South Wales is where the most thoroughbreds are bred each season. That then allows their stallion roster to access those mares and some of the very best mares in the country in the Hunter Valley. And of course, some of the very best breeders, some of the very best stud masters and service providers in the thoroughbred game based in the Hunter Valley. So only natural positives I can see coming from Yulong having half of their stallion operation based in the Hunter Valley. Now, 13, as I said, stallions for Yulong this season. A couple still, fees still to be announced for Private Harry and Devil Knight, who are still to race on. But 5 of those horses will stand in the Hunter Valley and 8 will stand in Victoria. And I'm sure that Victorian support will continue, and I'm sure Yulong are going to be very pleased with the support they're going to get from New South Wales-based breeders, the extra support they'll be getting from them now that they're a bit closer to access. That news came alongside the positioning of Kia Ora and Vinery joining together to combine their roster as well. Another big move, another one that to be honest, made total sense. Economies of scale, and get them all on one farm. 2 iconic brands, of course, in very similar ownership, a lot of crossover ownership there. So stallions in one place. Kia Ora continues to be a nursery, a breeding farm for Ananda Christian's estate. And then, of course, Vinery also owns part of. Will stand the stallions and provide the marketing, the sales team, etc., etc. So, of course, Alison Sedgwick, who was running the stallion nominations here at Kia Ora, moves across to Yulong and has been announced as their New South Wales representative. Of course, makes so much sense. Alison, based in the Hunter, has a lot of relationships with breeders in the Hunter, and Alison will be a terrific asset to Yulong and their stallion farm, or their stallions based at Segenhoe for 2026 and beyond. Moving on to the race performances. It had a huge commercial impact on the weekend. Well, it's just the year of Snitzel. The next episode, Magic Millions, highest price yearling of last year, $2.8 million for Ciaron Maher, and the UK ownership base there Of course, this horse bred and raised at Widden out of Humma Humma. It's a very fast family. This is a beautiful type of horse, as I said, by Snitzel, and he was dominant in the Dalrello. Now, I know it's only a listed race, but what this horse has done so far and in winning so easily on Saturday marked him, I thought, as a colt of a real a colt with the real future. Of course, we've heard in the media now that he's possibly looking at the JJ Atkins. I'm not sure exactly where we'll see him next, but of course, that mile race, Group 1 in the Carnival, might be a perfect target for the next episode. Well, not perfect. I mean, to be fair, on pedigree, he's probably a horse that screams 1,200 metres, 1,400 metres max. Is from a very, very fast family, Humma Humma by Denman. She was a 1,000 metre, 1,100 metre, 1,200 metres sort of store out. So question mark on pedigree, whether he gets that sort of distance. But the positive is that we've seen horses in this time of year in the Brisbane winter quickly bounce out of this. The warmth up there, the racing up there, the residual fitness to carry into the spring. And you can see this horse being effective in races like the Rosebud, the Run to the Rose, the Golden Rose, and then maybe looking at the Everest or the Coolmore Stud Stakes. But certainly a horse on the radar from a commercial point of view. What a massive year for Snitzel. He also had a stakes-winning 2-year-old in New Zealand. Had a look through it. He's now had 2 Group 1 winning colts this season. Campione d'Italia, of course, huge in the size, and Fireball. Won a nice edition of the Champagne. 2 Group 1 winning colts this season. In the previous, 10 or so years before that, he'd side 3 Group 1 winning colts, including Shinzo, Invader, and Sizzling. So, nearly doubled his tally within one season and just having just a breakout year. Mentioned before about Snitzel's size coming through. You're thinking about the Coolmore roster with Switzerland and Shinzo and Best of Bordeaux, all, Group 1 class Snitzel colts with runners still to come. We're thinking about Trapeze Artist, who's having such a huge season, and standing at Widden, Russian Revolution and Wild Ruler, and in the Congo there at Newgate, all, young proven horses with Russian Revolution, Wild Ruler doing a lovely job, and in the Congo to come through. You got Red Resistance up in Queensland, high class horse by Snitzel as well. Yeah, just off the top of my head, the number of Snitzel colts coming through, stallions coming through, there's just no doubt he's making his mark as a size going forward, and that's without those colts on the track still to find their places at stud. Very exciting and great to have that Snitzel line continued for the long term in Australia. I can see that happening for sure. Other significant 2-year-old results from the weekend, of course, Home Affairs, first crop side, big talk around his stud fee, based last week at 160,000 plus GST. Had a really nice winner of the big 2-year-old race, the Rich Racing there in Bendigo on the weekend. So his tally of winners in Australia now goes to 5, which makes him the leading first crop side in Australia now by winners and by prize money. Just takes over Stay Inside and Wild Ruler have 4 apiece on the winners tally. So a clear now leader first season side by winners is Home Affairs. So keep an eye on that scoreboard between, of course, now and the end of July. Exciting times, and feel like we've got a really nice group of first crop sides there in Australia this year. But like I say, Home Affairs leading the pack there. Of course, class prevails, and Wootton Bassett, I know we've lost him, but nice weekend for him. He had a really nice horse win the Clarendon. It's been a race that the Waller team have focused on and targeted in the past, and those horses then have kicked on to perform very well in the Brisbane Winter Carnival, namely the Size Produce coming up, the $1 million 1,400 metre Brisbane or Queensland Size Produce, and of course the Group 1 JJ Atkins too. So Stormy Marco, like I say, by Wootton Bassett, lovely horse with a bit of scope and a big action. Looks like a perfect horse for those sort of races going forward for the Waller stable. And he also had a stakes winner in New Zealand too over the weekend at Excite. So a couple of really nice horses for Wootton Bassett over the weekend in Australasia. Other performances of note from the weekend, I thought Skyhook was very good in the Hawkesbury Guineas. He is, of course, keeping his stallion prospect sort of dreams and hopes and commercial appeal alive. He's, of course, a winner of the Pago at 2. He won a Rosebud at 3. I thought he was very good in the Hawkesbury Guineas there, and he will aim to try and win his Group 1 in the Stradbroke handicap, of course, 1,400 metres at the back end of the Queensland Winter Carnival. And if he was to add that Group 1 to a CV, of course, from a big pedigree, by written tycoon from that Matamondre, that Anders Ostraka sort of family. So yeah, big pedigree on him. Obviously a good looking horse, and building a nice CV. And if he just needs to land that Group 1, he might find himself in a nice commercial place as a stud prospect. Speaking on the Stradbroke, I thought Brave Monarch was enormous there on Saturday. He looks just a very, very smart horse. I thought didn't have all favours, came up the fence. Another nice brave smash. Is doing a nice job, that horse, from very limited numbers. But this horse might just be his one. This horse looks like a Group 1 horse on data and to the eye. And as I say, heads to the Stradbroke handicap. They'll try and get him there at a nice low weight, and he will be awfully hard to beat, I would have thought, providing he can carry that form through the winter. Finally, the Group 1 SA Derby, of course, won by Wigmore. Big congratulations to OTI, to Philip Stokes, of course, by Swainess, this horse. Not a huge movement in the actual, the commercial side of the game, outside of the fact that, he was purchased by, or pinned by Ed Stapleton and Dylan Ralph, both top guys from New Zealand. Ed, of course, bloodstock agent, and Dylan runs one of the big farms over there and has had his own consignment in the past. That great to see those boys nail a big result, pin hook a Group 1 or a Group 1 winner, and a horse that really looks like he could be a Melbourne Cup prospect in November too. So shout out to those guys, and so cool to see how much joy they got out of that. Bloody hard to do. Group 1 races are hard to win, and they're incredible when you can be part of their story. So just wanted to shout out to those guys and say well done. A quick touch on international news, of course, huge racing across the world over the weekend. Just quality racing. Lovely to see big crowds being done very well. That Kentucky Derby looked sensational. Something like 20,000 mint juleps sold over Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby Day. The Oaks, of course, won by a Gun Runner filly, and the Derby won by a Curlin Colt. So those top American stallions to the fore there. In America, in Europe, we saw one of the best 2,000 guineas performances of all time, of course, running in Shaker Bade's colours, Bo Echo for George Bowie, who actually spent a lot of time out here in Australia with Gay, spent some time with her, has gone back, training the house down, of course, trained a 1,000 guineas winner, and now trained a 2,000 guineas winner, Colt by Night of Thunder. He was magnificent, and of course, as I said, owned by the same sort of ownership as Dubawi. So this horse, Bo Echo, will end up being on the Godolphin roster, the Dali roster, and you never know, we might even be lucky enough to have him in Australia one day. But one of the highest rated time form 2,000 guineas performances of all time. The likes of Frankel, Brigadier Girard, El Gran Senor, only ahead of him, according to time form. That's how impressive that was. And note too for the second horse, Gestad by Star Spangled Banner, who we know well here in the Coolmore colours, ran within, I think it was 2 lengths back in second. But the big story out of the Guineas was that was a big second, because there was about 10 lengths back to third. So he's another horse to keep a follow-on. Gestad going forward, and a horse that we might see in Australia at Stud 2 one day. The 1,000 guineas was won by Aidan O'Brien for the 8th time. Coolmore Stud to the fore there. Again, looked like a quality filly, most beautiful head on her, and a beautiful name, Love Story, and she was by No Nay Never. So that's the news, international news from the weekend, with big commercial ramifications and horses we could see in Australia down the track. That's all from this week's podcast team. We will bring you lots more. We're busy here at the sales. Literally inspected every single foal in the English weanling catalogue. So if anyone needs any notes on those, please sing out. Happy to help. And we'll start looking through our short lists, our vetting, and getting placed to bid on a few weanlings over the next couple of days. And of course, Thursday, Mez for the chairman sale will go under the hammer. Super quality there, very interesting. The sale, of course, always an exciting sale, always beautifully done by Inglis, and those mares start parading on Tuesday, so we'll start having a look at those tomorrow as well. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Appreciate all the feedback, lots of positive feedback, lots of good ribbing from everyone in the industry on the podcast, but glad to hear that people are listening and taking some value from this podcast. Really excited to launch our little new passion project next week. How we're going to get all the work done in time to do that, we'll work it out, but looking forward to introducing that to everyone next week. Super excited about that. Have a great week, everyone. Thanks very much for listening. keep well, and have yourselves a great week.